Hello, PAC Podcast. This is Pastor Dave. Hope you're doing well. Today's podcast may not be suitable for younger listeners, so parents just keep that in mind. Today we're talking to Andrew Shepard, and we're going to hear his testimony about how he came from the occult to Christ. So without further ado, let's get into it. I am here with a special guest, Andrew, if you're comfortable with your last name on the internet.
Sure.
Shepard. I think I used it in a previous episode, so my bad. I can edit that out, actually, though. Believe it or not,
No.
YouTube allows that sort of thing. Not sure about Spotify, though. I'd have to take it down and re-upload it, but that's besides the point.
That's fine.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming. We're so happy that we could get you on. I hope to make it a regular thing or more regular.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about your testimony. I think you have a really good testimony. And for those people that were not at the worship night a couple months ago that weren't able to catch it, I'd love for them to be able to tune in and catch it here on the podcast. So, so we'd love to hear your story. How did you come to Jesus and all that fun stuff?
Well, I don't know where you want me to start, actually, but just from the beginning. Well, as a young lad, right? Back when, way back when, there were particular struggles growing up. I grew up in, a household, that things were taken care of for me. There wasn't a problem there, of course.
Right.
But we had certain difficulties in the family, and that led me in many ways to, due to my parents' attentions, right, had to be given elsewhere. So I was often, somewhat left to my own devices,
Okay.
I would say, as far as emotionally and
Sure.
in those realms. So eventually, this led me, given the time of year it is, we'll just skip to this part.
Oh, sure.
Eventually, that led me to crave a certain amount of control and power of things.
Interesting.
Right? It mostly in a sense to, I felt at the time, and we'll get back to this, but to help my family, right, and myself to have a control and power over, circumstance or, those kind of things. That unfortunately led me to turn to less savory places.
Okay.
And given that we are approaching Halloween currently.
Late October, by the way, for those
Yeah.
who do not know.
Yeah, I wanted to just slap a timestamp on there.
Like point at the elephant in the room, I suppose.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
It led me to look into more occult-based practices.
Okay. So diving into that, you and I have had conversations about how occult stuff can be a variety of things. It's not just the overt darkness, that we sort of think of, like in the movies and everything else. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit, just so people are kind of informed?
Sure. I am by no means an expert on it.
Okay.
I was not necessarily in a official circle of it. However, there are many, like, for example, we might think of things, and this would be included, of course.
Sure.
Like mediums.
Yes.
Things of that nature. I was not necessarily in that camp.
Okay.
I was more of in the camp of like the scrying camps, the more not so much the smudging camps.
Those terms help us.
Yes. Okay. So a smudging kind of thing would be like what people would, and I do know people involved in this also.
Sure.
It's considered a practice to ward off evil spirits.
Okay, yeah.
Technically.
And a lot of this can seem innocent, and this is what I think people need to understand. So warding off evil spirits sounds like a good thing.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought this up because that is the trap of it, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I got trapped into it. The idea of having a power to do something I deemed was good, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it is presented in those ways. However, evil is very deceptive.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
right? And that's something that we always have to remember,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have these very innocuous type things,
Sure.
right? Like for example, many mediums
Yeah.
prey off the idea of, your loved one has passed and
Mm-hmm.
people are in mourning. And in
Mm-hmm.
order to give some kind of comfort, they
Mm-hmm.
usually prey off the idea of this is some connection to that lost loved one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, whether it is an actual medium or a false medium,
Yeah.
it's still devastatingly dead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because in both circumstances, it sounds like you're saying that there is extreme deception. Because on
Correct.
one hand, you're being deceived if you're not contacting, which in both cases you're not contacting the person that died.
I would say yes.
Basically,
In the
yeah,
vast majority of cases, that
right.
is not the case. You are
Mm,
probably either it's a charlatan,
right.
right? Or you are connecting to uh some form of demonic
Yeah, like a
trickery of
demonic
some
trickery.
kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Mm,
The vast majority of the
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
One of those two.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
vast
Makes sense.
majority of the time. Yeah, that's what you're getting. Um and that obviously is never good for anybody.
No.
Now, they can be quite convincing, however,
Sure. Sure.
because as we know, Satan does have a network of demons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they can know a great deal of things that you
Yeah.
wouldn't that the average person wouldn't think
Yeah.
could be known so
Mm-hmm.
easily.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now they can't get into your mind per se,
Mm-hmm.
right? But just having the network in the spiritual realm of being able to see and know things,
Observe. Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah.
observance, and
Mm.
all the years of practice of psychology,
Well,
everything.
and right, and
Yeah,
the thousands of years of being able to observe human
correct. Yeah,
behavior and human sin nature and everything else.
yes.
Nothing new is under the sun, even in their
Hmm.
case.
Yes.
So, and that should unsettle people
Hmm.
because these things, I think the point of the podcast too is not just to share your testimony, but it's a warning.
Yeah.
It's a warning to believers to say, I mean, I remember working with kids. One kid had what was called an evil eye, and that seems to be a popular thing. And
Hmm.
they said, oh, it wards off evil spirits.
Hmm.
Innocent
Hmm.
enough, or so it seems, right? But again, Satan is an angel of light,
Hmm.
and that is the deception. If I'm trying to sell a car and I don't want to look like those other car salesmen. You know what I mean? And I think
Hmm.
that's how they try to present themselves is like, I'm one of the good guys.
Yeah, it is also part of it is wanting to establish some kind of bond and some kind of
Yeah,
trust
connection.
too. Yes,
Mm, mm,
because a lot of it can be community based,
okay.
right? And there are, believe it or not, there are quite a few communities like this around this area.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Also, I'm not as connected with them as I used to be, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're still around. I see remnants of them at least.
Hmm.
And a lot of that is to get, disenfranchised young
Yeah.
people a lot of times
Yep.
who
Yep.
are to get that bond of community and
Mm,
then use it from there. A lot of times it is, and this is like with many sin,
hmm.
it is the temptation of something good, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's where they lure you in and
Sure.
get that kind of thing. Um, and given the season that can be sometimes used in that, it can be a season of promoting bad behaviors, let's say.
You're saying around this time of year.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and the celebration of the trick or treat kind of
Yeah.
attitude. And that can run into some, I would say, wannabe occult type
Okay.
practitioners
Okay.
as well.
Yeah.
The type that are kind of like, oh hey, uh, you know, that maybe think sacrificing a dog is a great idea.
Man, wow. Yeah. Yeah, well, there's unfortunately, and people might listen to this and say that seems very extreme. And
Yes,
it's on a spectrum. You might
yes,
get some stuff
absolutely.
that's not.
No,
as
absolutely,
extreme.
yes.
But you'll get some stuff where people, yeah, there's dark stuff. I mean, there's a church. There's also a bad church, if you will. It's sort of like a followers of Satan will do evil things, and I
Yeah.
think that became more evident in a lot of ways that we see in our country. The when Charlie Kirk died, you saw people
Sure.
celebrating and embracing it, and with one of the shooters, some of the stuff that he was writing about, and
Mhm.
it's all very disturbing. The reality of evil, though, is very much present,
Yes.
and I think this is, I think, trick or treating and things like that. I think is a conscience issue for people, and I
I
preach on
agree,
that.
yeah.
But I do think caution. I'm glad that you're sharing this
Mm,
because I think caution is important to
mm.
say, look, you might have a good intention and everything else, but be careful because unfortunately for a lot of the evil side, this is a different kind of holiday. This is kind of their Christmas
It can be
a little bit
for
from what I've
for
seen
some people,
in my
yes.
more limited
No,
understanding
sure,
of it.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
so
it
yeah.
certainly can be in that regard.
Hmm.
And I'm glad you mentioned the conscience thing
Oh, sure.
also, because there was a period in my life where because part of my occult tendency also came, but well, some people might know this in your audience, hopefully. Uh, there's a card game called Magic the Gathering that I learned
Oh, yeah, I've
from,
heard of that.
yeah, that I learned from my cousins back when.
Hmm.
And that was a big thing I used to not only get people together, but also somewhat promote the mentality,
Okay.
somewhat. Um, and when I became a Christian later in life,
Hmm.
I actually, and I have not played it since,
Hmm.
but I got rid of, destroyed all of my cards basically,
Hmm.
which, and this is not a, at the risk of sounding pridefully humble, they were quite valuable.
Okay, so this was not. Well, it reminds me
But
of an axe when people
yes,
turn to
and that's
Christ and
what I was thinking when I
okay,
did it.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, correct. Oh, and for the audience, yeah, what we're referring to is an axe when they burned the books and
Hmm.
the things of, yeah, of the, the
Right.
abominable practices, yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And my idea was so that, I couldn't pass them along, so I couldn't be a stumbling block for anybody else,
Got
kind
it.
of thing.
Got it.
I haven't returned to that particular game, right?
Hmm.
But and I'd stayed away from most things for many years
So there,
involving
it
the
sounds like
occult.
there was a transition at some point.
Hmm.
You were doing these things, and then
Yes.
now all of a sudden you're the total opposite.
Yes.
And so what was the point of when Jesus got involved in sort of in your story?
Uh, Basically, around when I was 18.
Okay, okay,
Well, yeah, I think I was 18.
okay,
Um, I was well, actually, my mother had been coming to the church, and there's a story there that
hmm,
could be for her to tell or whatever.
okay.
But she had been going.
Hmm.
Um, it was around when we were merging churches
Oh,
back
okay.
when from
With that
Kenwood and
PhD, yeah,
Plymouth to get, yeah,
yeah,
right, together.
yeah.
Um, so she offered for me to come help with some of the things to merge,
Hmm.
right? And I liked to be helpful,
Yes, we all know that.
I
You're a
liked,
very helpful man.
well, I mean, it's not really flattering.
Ropes you in based on your
Yeah.
goodwill here, that's good.
But so she was like, hey, that might be an opportunity for me to get him, into the church,
Involved, yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And, at this point, I was like,
Hmm.
I don't need any of that kind of thing,
Sure.
right? Um, while I was doing something, I forget what exactly, but Pastor Kurt had approached me
Mm-hmm.
and he basically just offered, hey, would you like to meet sometime to talk about things or whatever? I was in between things at this point.
Okay.
I was out of high school and
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
taking like a year off between college and whatever
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
thing. Um, to kind of just ground myself. Uh, and so I started meeting him for a while.
Okay. So you one-on-one meetings and everything.
Yes, correct. I remember that the first book he had me look into was Matthew.
Okay.
I remember that.
Hmm.
Um, and then I would read it and we would discuss it a little bit.
Hmm.
I did read the entire genealogy. I want to make that clear.
Wow. This is
I
a
didn't
non-Christian.
understand it,
Sure.
but he obviously went over it with me.
Man of your word. Wow.
But
Good for you.
I did go through the whole thing. We had discussed it. I believe it was around Easter.
Okay.
Um, Obviously he had been presenting the gospel to me through
Mm-hmm.
the word of
Yeah.
Matthew and in our conversations. Um, and I remember him leading me in that way through the prayer
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
forth. And I remember,
Mm.
and I remember that being very emotional for me, which is important because back when, way back when I was young, I had kind of gotten rid of my emotions in a sense.
Okay. To kind of,
I
yeah.
had tried to
Mm-hmm.
cope, right? Kind of killed them off
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So I was not the crying type
Okay.
necessarily.
Yeah.
So I could tell that was something that very much overwhelmed me into a new,
Mm-hmm.
uh, something new.
Yeah.
At that point, I didn't know what.
Yeah.
Um, so that was significant for me. I did find that you cannot. It does take anger to kill the other ones. So it's hard to get rid of the anger, the bitterness, anger,
Okay.
emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
In the dying to self process there, or
uh, well, that yeah.
okay.
I mean, from the past, it was hard for because I retained a very anger
Mm.
emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really retain the others as much,
Interesting.
right, from my past.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my emotional response to the gospel
Mm-hmm.
told me something
Yeah.
was up, I guess.
Something.
In
Mm.
that sense, I guess is
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But yeah, and then at some point, being discipled from my meetings with Kurt and
Mm-hmm.
then me attending, and also I was working for Lenny at the time, so I also
Oh,
was getting
there
discipleship
you
from
go.
him very much.
Well,
Um,
God had you surrounded. I like that.
yeah, it was
He's sending
it
the
was quite the
he's
blessing.
sending the
Yeah,
special ops there.
it was quite the blessing to have
Oh
so
wow.
many.
Wow.
Well, those two and so many
Hmm.
around. Yeah, to
And your
be such a
mom
blessing to me.
getting you
Yes,
into
correct.
church and everything. It's crazy.
Yes, and her praying for
Yeah.
me very
Wow.
much. So yeah, yeah, all those kind of things. Um, and then eventually I did come to that decision of swearing off a lot of it, like not immediately per se,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I was working through all of what the gospel kind of
Yeah.
means and study and
Your
everything.
life. Yeah.
But I did eventually come to very much a turn of the occult, but
Mm-hmm.
and that had lasted for years. And this is something that, as you said about the conscience, I'd like to address. 'Cause, in recent years, I have now started trying to use certain things that, like, might have an occult facade, like a game or something, to
Yeah.
try to um, perhaps open dialogue or a conversation about the kind of thing or whatever.
Hmm.
So I'm not as strict as I used to be on it.
Okay.
And that was a bit of a conscience thing.
That's
Yeah.
I don't know if people can hear that. That is the washer. We're recording in my house. So, in case anybody was like, "What was that sound?" Yeah, we're in the house today. A little special episode. See, they can't see, so they're
Oh
like,
yes,
there's this little
absolutely.
ringtone
Yeah,
in the background. It's
yeah.
actually our washer going off.
Which
Um,
works for me, so you can't see that I have a face for radio.
oh, I'm so glad you there. That is a joke that is
especially
years in the making, right now.
especially now that I'm coming straight out of work.
There you go. There you go. Straight out of the factory.
Yeah, straight out of the factory.
So yeah, I think that so ultimately, it's so good to what would you say to people? Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Um, so first of all, praise God that you got connected to the gospel, that God had surrounded you with godly men who are going to point you in the direction of Jesus. And
Absolutely.
so what do you think are some takeaways from your testimony?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Um, as as I had just been mentioning, I think the deceptive nature of evil is a very good one.
Yeah,
Because it will seem, and I'll go more into depth on this, but
sure.
it will seem also to be the right course.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That makes
by
sense.
by your own kind of determination.
Yeah.
Uh, and by that I mean in the idea that uh like I convinced myself I was doing it for the betterment of my family kind of thing, right?
Okay, yeah, you were trying to help people in a way.
I convinced myself of that,
Okay.
yes.
In your mind, that was the point.
Right, correct.
Hmm.
Um, but that clearly is not the way to go about that,
Yeah, sure.
right? We all kind of have an instinctual, well, instinctual is not really the right word, but it's kind of a Romans 1 of, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Hmm.
we know what the law is, right?
Yeah,
It's written on our hearts,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
In that way,
Yes,
is what I mean.
absolutely.
Uh, it's you kind of have an idea, but you're tempted with an easier way
Interesting.
a lot of
Yeah, not the
times.
right way, but
Correct.
yeah.
And that can be a very distinct pattern
Mm,
uh, to take as a warning from my life
sure.
also. But to be on top of the deceptive nature of it, when you are involved in that, and this is very important, when you're involved in that kind of thing, it's very hard to discern much of anything.
Mm,
Reality from fiction,
okay, okay.
right? Or at least for me, this is how, but I didn't know that when you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're just kind of like lost in the mist
Yeah,
of everything.
yeah. Mm,
Um, and the feelings of it, and by feelings of it, I don't necessarily mean as I said, I wasn't that emotional during
yeah,
it, so
sure.
not that kind of feeling, but uh, like just that something inside is
Mm,
not right.
yeah, sure. Sure.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah, yeah.
But almost like you're caged within yourself
Interesting.
in a way.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and I don't know if I was directly like influenced by a demon per se,
sure,
right?
sure.
Um, I can't say that with certainty,
Mm-hmm.
but I certainly did dance with quite a few,
Mm, yeah,
as an analogy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely.
Um, so with that, you can the discernment is
It's hard to.
nigh
Yeah,
impossible
yeah.
at that
Right.
point. Which is why I would always say be extremely cautious. If
Mm,
you have any twinge of conscience or any kind of that, provided that you have nurtured and nourished your conscience with the word appropriately.
so those that are in Christ you're speaking to here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, kind of a little of both, but with that statement,
Yeah.
yes, those that
Yeah.
have
Because if
nurtured
they're
their conscience,
unsaved,
yeah.
it's going to be hard to.
Unfortunately, if
Mhm.
you're unsaved, you're not going to be able to nurture your conscience
Yeah.
that
So
well.
if you're unsaved, get saved. That's a big one.
Yes,
It's huge.
always what we would
Yeah.
like to
Point you to
say.
Jesus.
Yes,
There's freedom there from
yes.
that kind of bondage.
Definitely run to the gospel, for he is the only one that will be able to buy you out of that bondage and
Yeah.
slavery
Amen.
into, uh, well, essentially what is, I mean, a slavery to him, which is great,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And because there's so much love and
Hmm.
and not only that, but you are treated as an heir.
Yeah.
Uh, When you are a slave to evil, there is no care involved.
Mm.
Obviously, well, it's like being a slave to any sin, really.
Yeah.
You're lost. It's destructive. It's deadly. It's
Right. Right.
uh, and you can't see through the darkness
Yeah. Yeah.
on your own merits.
Yeah.
So, if you are in something like that, or think you might be, I would say,
Hmm.
um, I would seek after the word,
Hmm.
uh, seek after Christ,
Hmm.
um, and his gospel,
Hmm.
as I had briefly stated some
Hmm.
of, right?
Hmm.
The fact that he did come down
Hmm. Hmm.
as obviously God come to man to be
Hmm.
our representation to die for us.
Yeah.
You will never see that
Hmm.
anywhere else.
No. No. No.
And when that was presented to me, I knew it was true.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that was because when Pastor Kurt had presented that to me when we met in the church around Easter back then, I think it was. Um, Not that that's important, the time of it, but
It's a good time though.
yeah, yeah, I think that might be why I remember it.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it's a little bit of my own resurrection, I guess, in a sense.
Wow.
Not to take not
Yeah.
by any means take the place of the
No, no.
celebration of the.
But essentially, you went from death to life.
Correct, yeah. Um, as much as you can kind of pinpoint a moment, I suppose
Yeah.
that would be mine, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and you'll know because it will change you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's very important. I obviously experienced quite a bit of a change
Oh yeah.
because of my occult practice past,
Yes.
with
Yeah.
trying to trade swap and being called an old soul, like an indigo kind of they call that like an indigo kind of
Yeah, there's a
child.
lot of lingo,
There's a lot of
and it's
terminology.
interesting because
But
we could think it's one thing, but it could be New Age, it could be, it could be
yeah,
witches, it could be all kinds of stuff. All that this is going to try to put you on a different path other than the narrow way. You could
true.
be a Hindu, you could be all kinds of stuff, and the same power that is behind those false religions and
Hmm.
ideas is the same power that wants to enslave you to the bondage that you talked about.
Yes, and I love that you said that
Hmm.
because that is very true.
Hmm.
As we know, a kingdom divided cannot stand,
Hmm.
as Christ said, right? So all of these things, and it's also stated in the Bible, though I can't tell you where off the top of my head, that all of these different things come from demons, right?
Yeah,
False
right.
religions,
False
false things.
religions.
Yeah. And this is why, because they're all linked together in a
Hmm.
sense, in many
Hmm.
ways. And they all use the same general formula, right?
Hmm.
Human achievement in some form or something like
Yeah,
that.
and power and all these different things too.
Yeah, for temptations,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
and all
definitely
those kind of
appealing.
things. Yeah, because that's how we tempt into sin. You get dragged away by your desires,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? For me, it was
Yeah,
among other things power based, but
yeah,
for the
yeah.
ones I'm talking about today, yeah. um, uh, and they dragged you away to the sin,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's all from a demonic influence,
yeah.
right? So that and on the counter side of that is the divine inclination of Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
right? The idea that you couldn't do anything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I do very distinctly have a testimony of I could not do done anything.
yeah, yeah.
I was very much dead in
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
transgressions, as Ephesians 2 will
Yeah.
say. Um, and I was very much made alive and new
Mm-hmm.
uh, from Christ. Uh, yeah, and thank God for that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Great blessing. But I definitely, um, just the fact that he would even notice somebody like me is astounding.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. Um, and of course, I mean, he's God, right?
Yeah,
He has no obligation, no any kind of reason to really notice us other than, as the scripture says, for some reason it delighted in,
mm-hmm.
right? And of course it gives him glory, when we're saved, obviously, but we will either give him glory actively if we're saved or passively in a sense for justice
Mm-hmm.
in hell later, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And obviously we would rather see less people
yeah,
there as
yeah.
we can.
My goodness, absolutely. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. And I remember hearing a testimony from someone. He also came out of the occult, New
Okay.
Age, all that stuff, and
Sure.
he just did a whole video on God's love, and it was
Mm.
almost like that was
Yeah.
something that just fascinated, not just
Hmm.
fascinated him in a sense of like, what if, what a like a scientist studying something. It was like
Yeah.
the fact that that was something that God had towards him
Yeah.
captivated him so much, and something that I think to encourage people. There's a lot of people that are swept up in this stuff,
Hmm.
the occult, New Age, other religions.
Sure.
This is stuff that, and this is local too. You mentioned it. It's not
Yes.
just. I mean, you drive around Stockbridge and you see that there's a medium there. In that
Yes.
little circle there aren't that many things in that circle, but one of those things, one of those
Yep.
few things you see, is a medium, and we need to pray for that person. We need to
Hmm.
pray for the people that go to that person. We need to pray every time you walk into these sort of fairs or
Yep.
places where they have different booths. In those booths, you'll see these crystals and these
Yes.
witch books and these occulty things and
Mm.
culty things even. I mean, there was a cult that was started around the corner from the youth building.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
unfortunately, that is alive and well, but Christ is more powerful and capable of saving even me. He can save you, can save anybody. So we don't know what the Spirit wants to do, but we trust Him in His power to do it. And thank you, by the way, for coming on to share your testimony.
Yeah.
And I hope it encourages and, I hope that information is helpful for people. And if somebody's listening and they have been involved in that, I think that this might help point them to the way to Christ, to the way out, and to the light.
Yeah, I would hope so. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I would say that if Christ can save me,
Hmm.
he can save anybody, in my opinion. So,
Well, thank you for coming on, Andrew. We'll have to have you on again.
thanks.